Bigpod,
Hey,
on your desk right now, what's the weirdest thing that you have?
weirdest thing.
Yeah,
A jar.
a jar? I've got a desk full of things. Like, coax staples. I've got to have coax staples in my life because, I'm a nerd and I've been rerunning a couple cables lately. Might have something to do with the video. Might. And, the desk is a very convenient place to, just toss a bag of coax staples somewhere because, we don't have anywhere else to put it.
Yeah, anything else weird? Oh yeah, I have a couple of light bulbs still in pack.
Oh, I've got chain lube.
Like 3-pack. Ooh.
This is wax. I didn't realize that I bought the wax bottle, so I just have like this bottle of wax chain lube just sitting here for bike chains. And of course you've got your helmet.
My bike
But
helmet,
was that on your desk or was that beside your desk?
right here on the desk.
Okay.
We have
Good.
no other place to put it.
Priorities. That's what it is. Cue the music.
Yes.
Hey guys, welcome to No Tux Allowed. I'm your host Josh, and today I'm in my white t-shirt. This one is not brand new. I apologize. But today, Bigpod has joined us wearing his blue shirt.
Yeah.
Who's just going to have a lot of fun
Yeah.
while running.
For those of you who noticed that this shirt I've been wearing last week as well, let me tell you a secret. I own multiple of the same shirt. I am that kind of a guy.
You see, I'm just going with the lifelong assumption that people just assume that I wear the same shirt every single day.
Okay, that's
Now,
also
you know for a
possibility.
fact that it's not the same white t-shirt. But
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that the internet doesn't know it's the same white t-shirt.
Yeah.
So, Bigpod, we got some big news.
Really?
We were inaccurate last week.
Oh no.
Yes, we came to an issue. And it's not our fault.
Yeah. At this point, I think at one point we should make a jingle for this part because it's probably gonna be a standing segment for quite a while.
Well,
So,
to my understanding, that old Valve launch sound is actually Creative Commons. So,
Really?
yeah, I believe so. So we could just splice that in somewhere, right? Like right now, if we decide that we're going to do it. So we are now launching Valve Watch. Our official segment of the show because we love Valve because Valve is an amazing company.
yes.
They amended the Steam survey for December 2025. And it turns out that Linux is not 3.19%. It is 3.58%. But there's some interesting numbers along with that. So, Bigpod, how wrong were we?
Well, we were wrong by, again, about 29.29%.
Right.
I think 39%. I think the calculation goes. Don't make me do mental math at 2 in the morning.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not going to make you do mental math, but I will point everybody towards the Gaming on Linux Steam tracker charts. As I got pointed in this direction through, Gaming on Linux, who dropped us the notification on this, by the way. Thanks, RSS feeds, and also Reddit. But it turns out that the Linux market share has actually really, really sped up. Since right before the Windows 10 end of life. Approximately March or so is when it's really started going up. But the most important thing that we can look at is rather than looking at, the Linux market share on Steam over time, go to the next chart and look at that chart right there where it's the Linux distribution share on Steam over time. Now, if you look at it as of right now, which is early...
Josh, where do you see Linux distribution share? There is only one chart here, unless you click the other link that is in the page.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's important to know that you have to click the dedicated Steam tracker page link that
Well, you see, I've got
that
this. I've
is
got
in the
this linked
page.
in the show notes.
Oh, you have? I didn't notice.
Yeah, it's the next link in the
Oh,
show
we
notes.
actually do have.
Yeah, yeah.
So click the second link in our show notes then.
Yeah, yeah. Because we do things right here. The very first link is the one that is our primary reference, right? That's how we're supposed to do things when we're making citations and references.
Yeah.
And then everything built off of that is underneath it. But if you look at the Linux distribution share on Steam over time, there's one thing that I took an immediate notice of. The number one distro, first of all, is SteamOS Holo 64-bit. That is the official image on the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
But this chart's going in an interesting direction because you would think that would go up because it's a dedicated hardware piece that is constantly being sold out. But this is actually going down.
Yeah.
Wow, overall
from between May 2024 to now, it's actually going down. But this, I'm gonna right away say this could be in part due to reporting, how reporting happens. So there might be a certain amount that is quote unquote mixed up with Arch because of how reporting happens, and they may not be reporting stuff correctly, and of course mixed with other as well. So
yeah,
the numbers probably aren't 100% correct, but I think the trends are still very much good to watch.
Yeah, Lighted, you got to remember that we always have to take like the Steam hardware survey with a bit of a grain of salt, because the one thing that we don't really get is like the hard numbers. We just really get like percentages.
Yeah.
So, which means that the data is a little flawed, but it's at least interesting to look at. But the thing that's noticeable is that even though the SteamOS usage seems to be trending downward, overall Linux is going upward, which means that more general purpose distros are actually being used, which means that maybe people are actually switching to Linux.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, based on what I've been reading, the actual Steam usage numbers in general are going up. So that 5.38% or 5.58% or 3.58%, whatever we have, I'm clearly
It's 3.5.
I'm clearly numbers are clearly jumping in my head currently. That number is much bigger than we originally thought, when we only had the idea that just relatively the number has gone up. Now that we know that the actual number of Steam users is rising, that also means that the absolutely speaking, that number is bigger.
Now
of Steam users.
This also trends like the market, the video game market share is like, it seems like PC gaming is also just growing as a result, because you got to remember, when it comes to like PC gaming, Steam is still basically a de facto monopoly, even though Microsoft has invested quite heavily into the gaming space with the Xbox Game Pass and stuff like that. People still buy things off of Steam because Valve is an awesome company. Also, a lot of the games are cheaper on Steam when they're on sale. But this shows like an interesting trend overall, because with, even though we've dealt with like these GPU monopolies like really cranking up like the prices and everything, it turns out that the market's still growing, which is great to see. Obviously, we're going with it growing. We're going to see probably still like some very questionable results out of the Steam hardware survey. But ultimately, I think that this is good. However, according to Dell, consumers have opinions. Because, Dell has made, I guess, you can call it a statement, but I really think that they're just admitting the truth here. As Dell has straight up said, consumers don't care about AI PCs.
Yeah. They used to be, like a year ago, they used to be focused all on the AI PC market. But I guess they decided it isn't worth it. That that people don't buy for the AI PC label. They buy for a PC label.
Right? Now, why is Dell coming out and saying this? Well, for one thing, I don't think Dell is actually listed on the stock market anymore. I believe Michael Dell actually is back to owning it, so it's effectively a private company. I might be wrong on that, but they can kind of get away with this without losing like stakeholder money.
No, as far as I see, Dell Technologies Incorporated is still on New York Stock Exchange.
Well, maybe then
But we do not know how much the actual who are the owners and how much of it is owned.
If we delve into like their stock reports, we can find that out. But those are numbers I'm not willing to uncover just for the show. So
okay, I uncovered the numbers.
Oh, okay.
He is apparently third biggest owner after Vanguard and BlackRock.
Okay.
With 5.168%, which is for such a company actually quite big. Since the major stakeholders, most of them have around there. So Vanguard is at 8.86 according to the source I'm using, which could be wrong, but probably not.
So they say in their statement that they're very focused on delivering upon the AI capabilities of a device. In fact, everything that we're announcing has an NPU in it, or a neural processing unit. But what they've learned over the course of the last year, especially from a customer perspective, is they're not buying it based on the fact that it's got AI capabilities. They're buying a computer because they need a computer.
Yeah.
Which I can kind of understand. Now, my question is, Dell was one of the partners for the Copilot Plus PC program in 2024.
Yeah.
Are they still going to serve the Copilot shortcut key? That's my question.
Probably. But that's more because it's now like a lot of people either expect it or expect it in more of the way it will find it weird that it's not there, especially if they buy laptops semi-regularly. But if they have a choice, probably not.
I mean,
that might not be choice with the license they have with Microsoft.
If I had to choose,
but yeah.
If I had to choose a laptop with a Copilot key over a laptop with, say a menu key, I'm probably going to buy the laptop with the menu key instead of the one with the Copilot key.
I personally would buy a laptop with a more useful key than menu key, but yeah, I don't think Copilot key is any more useful.
Yeah.
If it had, let's say, for example, a function key and a Windows key, sure.
I mean, they're all going to have a Windows key, and of course,
on
a limited size keyboard, you're going to
cluster.
Yeah. Oh well, yeah, on the left-hand cluster because that's.
But then again, let's also remember, right-hand cluster is kind of useless.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
Like when you have left-hand cluster, which is exactly the same, why have right-hand cluster?
Yep.
Those could be like function modifiers, like separate function modifiers that I can use. Which let's be clear, on certain European keyboards, yes, there is a function modifier that is different than alt, the so-called alt-gr. But that's just something. For example, a Quartz keyboard for like Balkan languages has, for example, like Slovenian, Croatian, Bosnian keyboard for Latin keys. Let's be clear, for Latin.
Yeah, so consumer trends are with Dell making this move though, I fully expect other manufacturers to at least make an announcement that they're basically going the same way, because at the end of the day, even though a lot of these companies rely just entirely on stakeholder investments, when it comes down to these hardware companies actually do need to be able to move product. Because heaven forbid if they don't, now they have no room to make more products. So that leads to logistical issues. But let's move on to our next topic here involving CES. Now, we're only a couple days into CES as we record this, so news is a little surface
Dry.
level. Yeah, well, not necessarily dry, but it's very surface level. Like we don't have like super in-depth details, or at least articles that have gone down deep into them. Because heaven forbid, they're probably still being written as we record this. So, these articles are still being written by various authors, various influencers that just so happen to be there. So that's just generally what we have to deal with. So we do have an announcement from Lego investing into a new brick called a smart brick. Now, Bigpod,
Yeah.
you've probably played with Legos before. I know I've definitely played with Legos. In fact, probably everybody on this podcast has probably played with a Lego or a Lego inspired device before.
Yeah.
And we know that the Lego company has invested in like these very, very amazing products. Like I remember playing around with like the Mindstorm kit way back in the day, where it's just like you dealt with like electric motors, robotics, and all that stuff. This goes a little beyond that.
Yeah.
But apparently, this is a brick that the one that we have advertised to us is effectively a brick with a speaker and like some kind of accelerometer built into it, so that way when you shake it around, it can make like engine noises.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. It also apparently has some way to detect like other bricks as well that are put next to it. So I'm assuming that's probably some kind of a magnetic sensor, because that would just make sense in my head brain. Because working in plastics, I know for a fact that a lot of the Lego bricks are actually built with like a fiber reinforcement that's typically like an aluminum or a stainless steel reinforcement, because they're not really doing like carbon fiber. But it does have some interesting notes. First of all, this is an app that has a parental control app, which means that there's some kind of an internet connection going on with this as well. I don't know if the device itself has an internet connection, or if it has to be interfaced with something that goes through, like, say, a Windows application or something. But that information just isn't available. But it does lead to some pretty cool ideas that I could have.
Yeah. Yeah.
It certainly does, because I do love playing around with some Legos.
And remember, this will go well with their kits they have. Like, for example, like you have a Formula One kit where you build a in some kits even pretty large formulas. So yeah, it makes sense to allow it to make noise when you let it go and it drives off in a direction. They also, at least in past, they had actual like remote controlled versions of those, where it had like an actual engine on, like electric motor and stuff like that. So it probably makes sense for them to have like some sort of like speaker control unit. They can do certain things with, like make noises, or if let's say I don't know, if you have like a tile that like has a sensor, like a magnetic sensor or some sort of sensor, where let's say you put a specific brick on top of it, or no, next to it, it detects, let's say for example, that you're quote unquote refueling, and it starts playing the liquid sloshing noise, for example.
Yeah, which, hey,
and stuff like that.
That's pretty cool. Now here's the biggest part, right? And this delves right into the affordability of this product. It is part of their system in play product line, which is the general line. This is not a special product at all. Which means that,
Yeah.
hey, it's probably going to have maybe some staying power because they have taken stuff out of the general line before. But with them putting it into the general line, this means that it's going to be part of like their primary production. So
Yep.
it's going to be available. And in fact, it's going to come out in a kit first. And that's going to be in like a little X-Wing smart play set is what they call it. That's coming out sometime later this year. So if you want to get into like an early preview, just watch out for that one. Just got to remember, sometimes those Lego kits can cost a bit of money.
Yeah.
Because, you know...
I just generally I'm not surprised if I want to buy something that's actually like maybe not like this small. €100 is nothing
That's true.
in those Lego kits, especially if you go Lego Technic or something like that,
And
which is where I see a lot of use for something like this. I bet Lego Technic will basically, in a couple of years, every Lego Technic kit, new kit, will have a smart block.
that's possible. In the meantime, I'm excited to be buying me some Legos because, you know, I need a break from Warhammer. In the meantime, talking about breaking things, Bigpod. Talk about breaking things. Logitech made an oopsie with macOS.
Okay.
So, Bigpod, I know you're a big fanboy of macOS right now, and I also know that you're a bit of a fan of Logitech devices.
There we go.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you've delved down into like making use of Logitech's Option Plus and G Hub applications on, you know, your Mac OS
I
system.
use not on macOS.
Not on Mac OS?
But I do have install of G Hub on my Windows VMs, so if I needed to change like the actual polling or polling interval or something like that beyond what I have preset custom already previously set, I can pass the one of the USB ports to that VM, and I can set it up to the proper setup.
Yeah. That said, with this oopsie, turns out that, you know, when you install an app through, I assume that this is distributed through like the macOS App Store.
No, not necessarily. There are multiple ways of installing programs on macOS. So first option you have is, of course, Store. Second option is what a lot of people
download binary, put it in an application folder.
Download binary, download the so-called DMG file, double click it, and then window opens where you install the app, and you have like interactive installer, like where you just drag the file into the menu,
okay.
or you have like actual installer, because like smart people know you need to accept the license. That kind of you have that, and then the last options are third-party package managers like Nix Package Manager and Brew.
Probably Brew is a bit more popular than Nix, but Nix is probably trending upward.
Yeah,
because you know there are some benefits to it. But anyways, their code signing certificate expired.
Oh. Yeah, that can be an issue.
Yeah. So in the event that you don't know what the code signing certificate is actually intended for, can we get like a surface level explanation of it?
So, essentially, when you build a binary, that binary you do not know from, like a third-party user doesn't know from who it came from. So, both Windows and macOS, and in some certain cases Linux, especially with more server-oriented options, have a capability to check the signature of the actual binary. You can sign the binary using a certificate. So it is a simple metadata that is added to the actual binary. As far as I know, I haven't gone down that rabbit hole, so it's probably a metadata. And when an operating system runs that binary, it can check that metadata, that specific bit about being signed, and it can check if it is signed, by who it is signed, and by if it's the valid certificate. So if you ever used Windows, you might know of the whole Windows Smart Screen, which asks, do you trust this unknown developer, and that is because it is not signed. That's exactly what Windows did. It checked the certificate. Either it wasn't signed, or it was signed with a certificate that might be expired or revoked, because that can also happen. Let's say certificate got stolen, and if certificate is allowed, it just passes it through. If it's not, it might ask you, and if certificate is in any kind of like blacklist, it will just straight up say nope. And
Yeah.
looks like macOS is even more aggressive than Windows in that regard. They actually straight up didn't load the app because certificate was expired.
Yeah, whereas Windows would pop with like that security prompt that everybody just automatically
Yeah,
says yes to.
It's actually a different prompt.
Yeah.
It is like a blue prompt, or probably changes with theme, that says Windows Smart Screen. It has it kind of like the screen on your in a browser. It's probably modeled after it after all.
Yeah, it's just like,
where
hey,
with HTTPS, do you really trust this HTTPS site without a certificate? Press for more detail. Yes, I do.
yeah, because that's just what everybody does. Now,
Yeah.
Logitech has already published a patch installer to fix this, and for probably our few macOS users that happen to make use of these Logitech devices that are dealing with this issue, I posted a link into it in the show notes for you.
Nice.
Yeah.
It is a problem, and like a lot of people will go, then why are we code signing if this can happen? Why are we doing this? Because due to supply chain security, which we talk about on this show
Fairly
very
often.
and you need to know who the supplier of the software is, and the easiest way to know without actually having user to go through hoops and loops to find out, the best way is to just have a code signing and OS check for themselves. So automation. This isn't what this was supposed to be. Well, we ask you, wanna run it or not? If the answer is no, well, we don't run it.
Yeah, so now that we're moving away from the macOS dystopia, it's time to move on towards back to a gaming topic. But
A
this
gaming
one,
dystopia.
yep, another gaming dystopia, and that we are talking about anti-cheat today, Bigpod.
Yeah.
In
But
fact,
in this case, it might actually be somewhat relevant, and
might be somewhat
somewhat
relevant.
okay. But I still think dystopia is the right word for
Yeah,
it.
dystopia is definitely the right word, because the anti-cheat service we're talking about is Vanguard, which is the most intrusive anti-cheat system
Yeah.
ever conceived.
Riot Games.
Yep.
Valorant.
So, obviously, Riot Games runs a lot of competitive, in quotations, games that people really like to play and really like
And really
to...
like to try and win, and therefore try and cheat in.
Yep. So this kind of is a result of like their community and also their own laziness in policing their community. But anyways, it turns out that Vanguard is now telling people that it will not load games because it has detected flaws in UEFI settings on a motherboard.
Yeah. So apparently, according to Riot's engineers, the issue lies in how UEFI firmware initializes the system's IOMMU, so Input Output Memory Management Unit. For those of you who may think this sounds very very familiar to you, is the same tech you use to do a GPU pass through to VMs. So from that you might know it, but it does have other options, and one of them is that IOMMU is intended to protect against direct memory access attacks, DMA attacks, before the operating system boots, using a feature known as pre-boot DMA protection, which theoretically should work, but apparently in certain motherboards doesn't work.
Or it might just be configured wrong.
Yeah.
So when you go to launch one of these games, apparently you get like this big red screen telling you, "Hey, you need to update your UEFI." Now,
Yeah.
this is the motherboard on your computer. typically.
And this is motherboard's firmware
This
we're
is
talking about.
motherboard's firmware. That touches a lot of things, and it can be scary when you do it.
And a single mistake can, at best, break your motherboard. At worst, break your entire computer completely.
Yeah, you got to remember your motherboard controls a lot of things. It plugs into a lot of things. It's almost as bad as a power supply when your motherboard goes bad, because motherboards typically are very reliable for a reason, and by the time a motherboard dies, something else is probably wrong at the same time. But you know, depending on how the motherboard dies, it could take things with it, because you got to remember
when motherboard dies, it probably takes the CPU with it.
Yeah, you got to remember there's a 12-volt power rail running through your motherboard.
Yep.
As well as a 5-volt and a 3-volt. So there's voltage regulation that's controlled via that firmware. And heaven forbid, you download a firmware binary, you toss it onto your FAT32 USB drive, because you know that's how some motherboards have to update. Plug it in, and potentially say like a bit flip happened in like that voltage regulation portion of the firmware binary code that we have no access to because it's not open source.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you go to boot into like the update tool. It runs the update perfectly fine because it says so.
And then
it goes to boot. Next thing you know,
you have the case of escaped magic smoke.
Yeah. Yes. And it's
and because it's the magic smoke that escaped, at the very least motherboard stopped working, because we all know that magic smoke is what makes electronics run.
Yeah. That said, thankfully, your power supply is probably in good state if that ever happens. So your power supply should prevent a house fire, but that might not prevent other things inside the computer itself catching fire. So
you might also have a light show at that point, not just magic smoke, also a light show.
Yeah, that is possible. That said, it's a good idea to update your UEFI, especially if you're dealing with like first generation hardware, like what I was dealing with, where you might be updating your UEFI on an almost daily basis and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
or if you are, or when you are actually going to later generations of hardware on the same motherboard. Example of that is when you, because of how amazing, at least to this point, AMD is.
Yeah.
We don't know future. I'm not gonna say yes, no. Current announcements weren't so hot to say that they are doing good, but at least they still plan to support AM6 or whatever it's called, the latest CPU, GPU, CPU chipset and socket. But when you were buying AM5, that it's called CPU, so it's AM4.
It's AM4 because you got to remember AM4 was a socket that lasted forever.
Yeah, basically for for first 5 generations of Ryzen.
Yeah, the first 5 generations of Ryzen all have AM4 SKUs. In fact, I still think that they made it.
First 5 generations of Ryzen were explicitly AM4. There was no AM5 came with 6th generation of Ryzen.
Yeah.
And even still, they sometimes release AM4 CPU.
Yeah, I think that they literally released one last year. So, but when you're dealing with like those AM4 motherboards, depending on how old that motherboard is, you might need to flash the firmware to support a different chip, because the storage chip for that EFI might not have enough physical storage space on it to support all the different SKUs of CPUs that it would have to interact with.
And if it is too new, you might need to update it anyway, because there might be some new firmware requirements for the new CPU. Let's say you bought it at like 3rd gen, maybe 5th gen, you need to update because it has specific new codes that are needed, because 5th gen CPU had new extensions or whatever.
Yeah, so like PC builders, like myself, and probably by some extent you as well, Bigpod, we're kind of used to seeing this. But my concern is like those people that bought like the pre-built PC,
Yeah.
they still play like their Riot games because every single Riot game can run on a potato.
Yeah.
And now they're getting like this prompt, and now they have to go through a process that they potentially have never seen before.
Yeah, and it gets pretty scary when you see, don't unplug your PC.
Don't touch your PC. Leave it alone.
Yeah, and let's be clear, it is a scary sight for somebody like me as well. Like the last time I was updating my UEFI, I actually hid under the duvet waiting for it to finish because I was that scared my laptop's gonna die.
Yeah, that said, some laptops are also extra cancers. And that might actually require you to plug in the barrel plug that you probably lost years ago.
Yeah.
Because, I've ran into that before too. So, if you play Valorant or, a League of Legends game, first of all, I'm sorry for you, just saying. But be prepared. Be prepared for this, and just remember, if it all goes bad, thankfully, the game runs on a potato, so that $5 yard sale PC might be able to run the game.
Josh, so when will you update your firmware?
I updated my firmware last week, actually.
Really?
Yeah, because I was running into I'm running a first generation. So when I built my current desktop computer, it was a first generation DDR5.
Oh.
So I was dealing with all sorts of issues where the system was when I first built the system just was not stable when I had more than one memory stick plugged in. It didn't matter which slot. If I just had a second stick or even a third in there, just all sorts of things would go weird.
Yeah.
Or I dealt with
first gen hardware.
Yeah, I've even dealt with issues where it's just like my CPU just would just permanently thermal throttle. So I was limited to a 500 megahertz CPU, which was amazing because I could still boot my computer and not realize I was running into an issue until I went to render a web page.
Yeah.
But
I won't be upgrading anytime soon.
I mean,
my hardware is pretty good.
Yeah, for the most part, depending on like your device as well, it's entirely possible that your operating system update management tool will just automatically patch the firmware for you, and maybe you just never notice, because that's the ThinkPad life right there, man. I tell you what, I'm so happy that the ThinkPad is just that easy.
But Josh, I wasn't talking about the firmware of your computers. I was talking about your firmware, because aren't you playing League of Legends card game? Don't you have to install anti-cheat on yourself?
So the card game I'm actually not really playing, because it turns out that so when it comes to like trading card games, I take a very philosophical approach to like if I actually play it. For one thing, I won't play the game if I'm the only one playing the game, because heaven forbid there's nobody else to play the game with.
Of course.
Second of all, they never they didn't ship like a second wave of product supplies, so a restock wave, until 6 months after the product released. So by the time it came out, the community was dead.
Oh.
So I have the card. I have the cards, yes, but I haven't even tried to play the game. So I guess I don't need to update my firmware yet.
Okay.
Plus, like their online account system for like tracking tournament progress and all that is kind of bad. Thanks, UVS.
Okay.
So Bigpod.
What?
You made a change.
Me?
Yes, you made a change. For logical reasons, yes. Because, it turns out that Wi-Fi sucks in Europe. But...
yeah, Wi-Fi sucks everywhere, but especially in Europe.
Yeah, might be because, all the concrete you guys put in your walls, or have existed in your walls for hundreds of years. But it turns out that you've dropped a bunch of money on some new equipment, and you kind of wanted to talk about it.
Yeah. I bought myself my first few bits of UEFI hardware. So Ubiquiti, and I gotta say I am impressed, and I do understand why basically every YouTuber talks about UEFI like it's some sort of heavenly hardware.
I mean, I have zero doubts that's good stuff. The problem with it is that, we're not sponsored.
Yeah.
So Ubiquiti, if you want to if you want to give us some money, send us an email to contact@tuxbase.com. We'll have a chat. I
Yeah.
promise. I promise our rates are reasonable.
So what I got was one of their access points. So I got their U7 Lite. It's their most basic, latest generation hardware. So Wi-Fi 7. It doesn't
So
have
the cheap one,
the
because it's
yes,
currently on the production line.
yeah, and it doesn't have the one drawback of it. It doesn't have 6 GHz radio, but it still is
Oh,
pretty damn
boo.
nice. It, uh, Within this room where I have my office, I get, well, no matter what device I get, full internet speed, which is 1 gigabit. So it means it probably could get faster if I had better better hardware, because it does have 2.5 gigabit uh, support for 2.5 gigabit. Also, one thing I have to note, that actually the actual access point is smaller than I expected. It always seems like at least 25% bigger on videos.
It
But when I got like the box was small, and when I pulled it out, it, it looked tiny compared to what I saw on like videos, and like and how it feels in production material,
I
or
mean, maybe some of the
promotional
older
material.
models were huge, but
Also, that's also possible.
the benefit of progress in like electronic design is that everything inevitably gets smaller, because it turns out that's just cheaper to build.
Yeah, and we're gonna get to there, but apparently nowadays they also have a single access point configuration mode where you don't need some of the things I'm gonna talk about later. But it is one thing that it's important to note. It is PoE powered, so you do not have a separate power plug. You have just a Ethernet cable over which power goes, which is nice because realistically, if you're kitting out, no, a a factory or an office suite, you want to run one cable, not two,
That
and
that
you may not have power plugs next to on the ceiling where your AP would live.
Yeah.
So that is really good for like those purposes. So normally for such a deployment, you might buy yourself a PoE injector. Not me. I went proper. I bought myself a PoE switch. I bought one of their smaller. I believe it's H8 PoE, so an 8-port switch with PoE plus capability, which is more than enough for what I need. And it is a pretty nice switch. It is, though, color. I don't particularly like that they have everything is white, but I can live with that.
I mean, at least it's white and not like some gosh color. It's a neutral
Yeah,
tone.
yeah. I would more like it with black, but white is
Oh
okay
well.
as well.
White has that appearance of professionalism. That's what it
Yeah,
is. So, obviously, when you're deploying like a fancier home network, you're probably and you're deploying and you're taking like this a bit more seriously. You're buying like that standalone switch, and you're typically building the network around that switch, not necessarily like a firewall device, like say
yeah.
a home router. So, what are you using as like say like your firewall service? Is it also a unified device, or are you...
No, currently I have firewall that is provided to me by ISP.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, ISP firewall is better than no firewall.
Yeah,
So,
uh, I currently don't have any firewalling that I would control, mainly because I like never really needed it, and well, it is a home network. So at one point, I do plan to also go into that direction, but like currently, mostly because of the fact that I have to deal with some of the stuff that are imposed by ISP, specifically because I want to watch TV, and as all of you know, we use in Europe IPTV,
Yep.
and that can cause problems when dealing with firewalls and setting up firewalls, because the configuration of the stuff isn't always very well publicized by ISPs. Well, but one of the things that this kind of network, like Ubiquiti, and this kind of more prosumer, professional, and enterprise networking has, that your home Wi-Fi APs and your ISP provided setups won't have, is a controller, a separate device that does control of every device,
Yeah.
every other networking device. In
Your
my case,
settings
that is
management device.
CloudKey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I bought is their latest and greatest CloudKey Plus SSD. So, and that is like it's an actual PC. Well, not a PC, but a actual computer. Small form factor of about yay big, a bit bigger than the actual Switch. Which, by the way, that small computer that only does the control of the network has an 8-core ARM CPU inside.
Well, of
So I
course.
can proudly say I have a ARM computer in my life.
Well, a lot of people have ARM computers. They just don't realize that they're ARM computers.
Yeah.
Or that they're
Called
computers to begin with.
phones.
I mean,
But excluding
phones, even
TVs,
just
stuff like that.
TVs, smart TVs, anything
Yeah.
smart has like probably an ARM CPU in it.
Yeah.
Although
At this
RISC-V
point,
is starting to
everything is ARM.
show up on like some
Yeah,
things, but
but
typically that's like more micro switchy kind of stuff.
yeah. Well, and as I said, APs can now do single mode, so don't have to have the controller. But since I was buying the Switch, since I was buying the actual AP, I was like, might as well buy the CloudKey and actually learn about this stuff. And that's actually one of the points I was going for. I want to actually learn UEFI and be able to set it up for just about anybody and manage it for just about anybody, so that whether it be I manage for other people, whether it be other households or even maybe at one point other companies. I have now the hardware that I can actually look at and actually learn how to use the settings and all that, because otherwise I couldn't.
Yeah. Bear in mind, this is UEFI stuff is typically seen in like small business. This is not like your enterprise gear. It can be used in enterprise.
They are nowadays going heavy on enterprise.
Yeah, they can be used in enterprise, but typically you'll see UEFI in like a lot of say like massive household deployments that for some reason just need a lot of networking, or small business.
Smart homes and small and medium businesses.
So
SMBs.
that's typically where you'll see it, which honestly, if you're an IT guy, that's kind of like a sweet spot career to be in.
Yeah.
Because you're not dealing with heavy rack mount servers every single day. You might occasionally, but you're the guy just stepping into like an almost unique situation every single time you turn around. So that can be a bit of a rewarding career. In fact, we had an episode with Tom Lawrence that we talked a little bit about that.
Yeah.
A few months ago. So
and one of the amazing qualities of Ubiquiti, which is one of their main points, is they do not have licenses.
Yeah, there are no subscriptions unless you want to pay for it.
There is one subscription they offer at current time, as far as I see. They have a official UEFI hosting, so the actual like CloudKey, if you have a massive deployment of several hundred devices and you're not into having that CloudKey Enterprise, which is a rackable multi-$1,000 unit,
Or maybe you just have a bunch of UEFI equipment and you might not have the money to get the smart switch for the month. You could just pay for a month off of the subscription and still have access to all the wonderful features.
Subscription is like pretty affordable when you're dropping realistically thousands or tens of thousands of dollars just for APs and switches. The $100 for 1,000 device hosting ability is actually pretty darn cheap.
Yep.
With, of course, and as I said, the actual like CloudKey Enterprise, the big server with Xeon costs upward of 5,000 euros.
Yeah. To be fair,
with tax.
To be fair, though, that thing is supposed to run thousands of devices.
Yes.
So
yes, and tens of thousands.
If you're buying that,
plus.
it's because you need it.
Yes.
And at that point, it's affordable.
Yeah. And also let's remember, you're probably not like me, where you bought one cloud key. You're probably smart enough to buy two.
Yep.
If
Because
you're in business,
if your cloud key goes down, you can just have a hot backup. But
this cloud key is also capable of acting as an minimal NVR. So if I had, let's say, a camera or three, I could connect them to this, and I would be able to record on that 1 terabyte SSD that it has.
Yeah, which, hey, when it comes down to like home security solutions, Ubiquiti is actually one of the better guys, because heaven forbid, I've looked at these security camera services, these modern day security camera services that are not called Reolink. They are all cancerous in their own unique way, and honestly, you have if you already have Ubiquiti, it just makes sense to go with the Ubiquiti cameras. Honestly, it's either that or you're willing to invest in Synology, which that's a whole nother rabbit hole of a service to be going down into, or you're going the very, very DIY route.
And if you're a company, you might actually wanna also look into their what's it called, access control. So you have their like card reader, and from what I hear, it is also very, very well made. But again, I don't know. I just hear about it. Would love to test one day.
Yeah, as spare money comes in, just buy it.
Yeah,
you have the capability
maybe
now.
actually put a lock on my door one day.
Or
especially when I have an office,
Yeah.
I probably will want to put a lock on it. So why not put a electronic lock and unlock it with my phone or a PIN code?
I mean, you were talking to me about a server room, setting up a server room before the show. That'd be a perfect use case for it. It's just like, why does your sister need access to the server room? She probably doesn't. Just keep it locked.
Yeah, and I have also bought two more pieces. I bought two cables, two of their patch cables.
Because it was conveniently the perfect length at the perfect price point, or a cheap enough price point, so you decided to go for it.
I would have to buy cables anyway, so I was like, maybe they're a bit more expensive than what I can get at the local tech store.
Yep.
But reality is, I'm gonna get them within the same package as I get everything else, and I know they are certified for PoE Plus. Actually, the ones I have are certified for, I believe, PoE Plus, which is an amazing naming scheme for PoE. But yeah. So yeah, like, because otherwise the only other cables I have currently at home are Bigpod production, and therefore I do not trust them with electricity of that kind of order.
Yeah, you got to remember, when you're dealing with like when you're dealing with power over Ethernet, first of all, PoE plus is like 120 watts of power.
Yes,
that cable is probably not even a millimeter in thickness.
Yeah,
it is skinny.
Thankfully, this doesn't use PoE plus. This, I believe, the switch is PoE plus capable.
Or just PoE.
And even that is basically doing nothing to it, because I can actually look into the actual dashboard on how much usage is. The unified dashboard is amazing, and I have both my cloud key and my access point through the switch connected with just their electricity, just their PoE Ethernet cables.
Yeah.
I don't have not to have a second cable for power.
Yeah. That said, for everybody that's wondering, I am personally not going to be buying UEFI equipment for my setup because I've got a series of videos called the Home Lab series where we're doing home labs the hard way. So obviously we're going to be doing network the hard way as well because that's just the way I roll. But in the meantime, if you are a community member and you would like to send us an email, or just anybody else in general that wants to send us an email, because we don't get enough emails these days. We used to get a lot of emails. We used to get quite a few emails. Don't. I know our email still works. And but I would like to have a classic chat over email, just like the early 2000s, late 90s. Let's start an email thread with each other. Send us an email, contact@tuxbase.com, where you send us an email, and we will probably reply. I typically reply within 12 hours, because heaven forbid, I just do that. But if you would like to talk in the community in general, we do have a Discord server because some people need to be modern. And even though Discord is going through an IPO, supposedly going to IPO in March, probably turning it into a more cancerous platform than it is now, it is still available at tuxbase.com/discord. Go there, join the community, chat with the community. We'll pop in there, we'll chat every now and then. Sometimes I was actually sitting there in a phone chat with Hip Dad, just last week, just chatting up a storm with him. So obviously there are voice channels in there. If you're sitting in there, we might join you. And of course, you can support our productions and our insanities by going to patreon.com/notuxallowed and continue supporting us because we're doing things the hard way. We are hosting this entire podcast infrastructure ourselves. Obviously we're paying the cloud to do it, but outside of paying the cloud to do it, we're literally renting VPSs and configuring everything. We're not going through. If you get our RSS feed through like Spotify is not our source of truth. Spotify has no control over the content that we create. They are just a syndication from us. We are our own source of truth. If you go to show.tuxbase.com/@NTA, you will find the true podcast with an RSS link that you can download from. Not that I'm telling you to do that, but because we go through all these other services purely for your convenience.
But if you want to, you can.
You truly can. You truly can. Of course, Bigpod. We have our own YouTube channels. I said I was going to publish a video. I'm sorry I had to delay that video because it turns out I made a mistake. And gave really bad advice. So I'm going to redo it.
And I said I'm going to stream, but then when I was planning to stream, I remembered that I have to edit a No Tax Allowed episode. So then I didn't stream.
Commitments.
Yes. Commitments.
Yep. And of course, after we're done recording this episode, I've got a Baldur's Gate addiction I've got to get back because I fell down that rabbit hole again.
Yeah, I'm also right now trying to get through Baldur's Gate again. But unlike Josh, I'm doing heroic mode, so one life, one chance.
Yeah, I'm not doing heroic mode. I'm doing first playthrough mode. In the meantime, guys, we will see you next week.
Goodbye.